when we started looking at this project, we went to MIRA, the road research people, and we talked to their chief aerodynamicist and said, what can we do to get the aerodynamic drag down? And this is a guy with the wind tunnel, I mean, a full-size wind tunnel, one of the best in the world, probably, at the time. And he sort of looked at us, sort of Rolls-Royce, you know, low drag, sort of a bit of a no-no. And he said, the only thing I can suggest is you just round everything off. Well, I kind of sort of kicked off at that because really what was emerging from aerodynamics is that it's not how you say hello to the air, it's how you say goodbye. So the front can actually generate a fair amount of drag, and as long as the air wake gets itself together towards the back of the car, you can actually get low drag. So I suggested to an engineer who was quite helpful, really, a chief engineer. I said, let's put a plywood model of the Rolls-Royce radiator shell onto the Audi 100. Just see what happens. Put it in the wind tunnel. You know, is that going to really wreck the whole car's aerodynamics? So the chief engineer agreed to this. So we happened to have an Audi 100 at the time, and so we put this radiator mock-up onto the front of the car, put it in the wind tunnel, and if the basic Audi was 0.3, which was world class, there was nothing better than that. This model, when we did this work on the mocked up Audi, it was, I think that I still got the MIRA report somewhere. It may have been as high as 0.34, but I think it was down to about 0.32. So really, it proved the case that you don't have to have an incredibly low drag front end. You don't have to have the sort of a wedge coming right down to the bumper. You can actually get away with it as long as it's got its act together at the back of the car, and the car, it's how you say goodbye to the air. So that's why we were looking at aerodynamics at the back end in particular. And again, aesthetically, you're talking about pure. I wouldn't say cosmetics, but it's pure appearance. Here's another example where you don't have the full width of the light. You just go for a corner, and of course it makes a huge difference how the car is perceived. At that time, I was spending a lot of time on the motorway, driving back down to London at night, and I became a bit obsessed with cars from the back three quarters at night because all you can see is rear lamps. And it's a massive signature at night, and so I became quite intrigued by that. And so, you know, I was sort of not just trying to do bright lights. It was a question of the signature of the car in the night. Here we go, right across the car, again right across the car.
That's a full light fixture, is it? Which has
it's like your car. Yeah, it's like the SZ, which I call the SZ, the Spirit. You all these are all lenses. In this case, it was cheeky for me to put the number plate into the lenses because that would never been done. I mean, you know, you'd have a huge plastic moulding. But as my boss often told me, and quite rightly, it wasn't my job to worry about someone else's problem. In other words, if you get a good solution, you say, look, we need this.
Make it.
And they have to scurry away and do it in theory.
Which they are now doing with electric cars. You see quite a lot of them with that full strip at the back.
It makes a lot of sense to use a large plastic moulding because you don't have to paint it.
Yes.
You don't have to paint it. It's a huge part of the car. And of course, on the production line, you just plug it in.
Yeah.
You know, no feckling or worrying about damage to paint and all this business. So, I mean, I would still probably go for this.
Still looks modern today.
I still like it, you know. And of course, it sets off the chrome, very delicate without going over the top. More of variations on that. Two bright strips, but again, a really major statement at the back of the car. And of course, because we're talking about a smaller car, we had to do something that was exceptional. The rear lamps on SZ Silver Spirit were successfully received, and also they passed all regulations. They had to go right across the car because of separation requirements, and also they had to open because of the boot shut. And again, you can see the difference there, where you try the full span right across the back of the car, or just local columns. I mean, the difference between the two when you see them together, it's quite remarkable, the difference it makes to the overall appearance. In certain countries, these would be legal. In others, they wouldn't, and you'd have to do this. And of course, also, we dialed in the little coach-built rear light, which is, we call it light, but it's a window, with still thinking about Everflex roofs, which are now seen as sort of 1980 or 70, but they were still very popular for coach-built cars. And again, you just keep going. Here we have one which we've got a bright strip across the middle with featuring on bright around the number plate. But these were all genuinely low drag cars. We're putting these models into the wind tunnel and getting, very good results. It was quite extraordinary.